Welcome. I'm Rachel from the Campaign for Better Policy, and I'm joined today by Sam Williams, my friend and disability rights advocate. Sam and I are particularly interested in the language of disability, and we want to talk about one of the worst culprits today: genuinely disabled. So phrases like genuine need or genuine disability sounds what Sam and I like to call performative reasonableness. The DWP Green Paper recently said that there will always be and should always be a safety net for those in genuine need. Liz Kendall said recently, protecting people in genuine need is a Labour principle that they will not compromise on. Now, it's a simple adjective, but it doesn't just describe, it implies. It creates suspicion, it legitimizes the idea that there is a line at which people become genuine as opposed to disingenuous. And so, Sam, as a disabled person, tell us, it can lead to people asking you to justify yourselves, but you are a disabled person. Sam, so tell me, are you genuinely disabled?
Well, I am, yes. I have invisible disabilities, and this is where it makes life complicated. I don't know if you know this, but non-disabled people have decided that they're now experts on what makes a person disabled. I'm not an expert. They're the experts. Now, people, for some reason, with disability, they have decided that genuine disability is something that they can see.
Yes.
So, for example, if someone's in a wheelchair, they can say that's genuinely disabled. They know where they stand with that. And if someone uses a slur against someone who's in a wheelchair, like the R word, for example, everyone knows where they stand. But
Yeah.
with invisible disabilities, for some reason, they're not okay. They're not seen increasingly as genuinely disabled.
Yeah.
So, for example, I've got long COVID. I'm also autistic. These are things that, because people can't see, they think, oh, that can't be real. That's like Emmy was in the 80s. They're saying it's the new bad back. And this is really problematic because at the moment we're seeing invisible disabilities increasingly being swept under the rug or passed off as being psychosomatic illnesses or mental illness.
Yeah.
I have a real problem with this because I'm constantly being asked to justify why I get PIP, which is a disability benefit. The phrase that people use constantly is, why should I get a disability benefit at the taxpayer's expense?
Yeah.
You keep seeing this phrase, at someone else's expense. And what I think it means is people really don't want equality. They don't want disabled people to get something at the taxpayer's expense. They say they don't want asylum seekers to get benefits at the taxpayer's expense. There's a whole kind of right-wing rhetoric around making us feel like we're less than, like we don't deserve it. There's a phrase that someone used towards me yesterday, which is that I was a useless eater.
Oh, I haven't come across that before. I mean, I guess it ties in with people being happy to spend their money because that's how they feel that they're doing on genuine disability. So it's this kind of line, isn't there, where, like you say, people with invisible disabilities or mental health issues are being put on the disingenuous side or the non-genuine. Genuine equals physical disabilities that we can see. Non-genuine disabilities leads people to believe that they're spending taxpayers' money on disingenuous things. An eater? Does that? I mean,
yeah.
That I mean, to some extent, you kind of almost have to applaud the language and the creativity of it. But to others, you think people are not just consumers. I mean, in terms of genuine need and taxpayers' money, Sam, I suppose it leads us on to another phrase, doesn't it? Economic inactivity.
Well, economic inactivity is one that I find really offensive because I'm on PIP. I spend all of my PIP in the economy. there are people who are sorting their money away offshore.
Yeah.
These are people who are not being properly taxed, in my view, because Labour's refused to levy a wealth tax. And also there's the fact that I pay tax too. Even people who are on benefits pay tax. And it's also worth saying that lots of people on benefits are also doing paid work.
Yep, about 40% of universal credit claimants, just under 40%, are in paid employment. Now, we talk about economic activity as only paid employment, don't we? So when we talk about economically inactive people, for some reason, we don't include children, we don't include the retired, we don't include, what we're looking at is people who aren't working. And that again gets conflated with people with disabilities. And we talk about economic inactivity as laziness, but because we're throwing everybody into the same bucket, the language that we're using is harming disabled people with words like genuinely disabled or working people or economic inactivity. This is something that you're being challenged on.
I feel under attack.
Yeah.
I definitely do. And what I want to know is what gives non-disabled people the right to decide who is genuinely disabled? If I were to say to you, I've got cancer, you wouldn't say to me, prove it, would you?
No.
You wouldn't say, oh, you need to show me the scan so that you can prove to me that you've got cancer. So why is the same thing coming up with disabled people? It's because I think Labour has put a target on our backs. Labour has suggested that we're somehow undeserving, that we're the undeserving poor, that we're a burden, we're a drag on the economy.
It's in the language, and you say like we're not quite sure where this comes from. My theory is here that it is in the language. We know that language alters our worldviews. We know the language you speak alters the way that your brain sees the world. We know that being bilingual or multilingual edits the way that your brain sees the world. The language that we use is really important, and people feel empowered because the government and because in the sort of the media, we talk and we use phrases like genuinely disabled or genuine need, because obviously to have genuine need, you have to have non-genuine need. Now, the government tell us that fraud in personal independence payments is zero. So everybody who's currently claiming, according to the DWP's own figures, is genuinely disabled or has a genuine claim, or that because they're not fraudulent. So,
no.
So we're talking about bolstering people's sort of moxie, if you will, in terms of being able to challenge people because the language is on their side. When we talk about genuine need, what we're doing is giving people the language to question other people about it. And I think it's a slippery slope.
People have decided that I'm not genuinely disabled. Frequently, I have it levied against me that I'm mentally ill for saying that I've got long COVID. And this is something that I feel Labour has done by raising this language, by talking about a moral mission. It is ridiculous, though. They're suggesting that if they take away my PIP, an amputee will grow their legs back. They're suggesting that a blind person will be able to see again just because they are incentivized by the removal of their benefits. What's actually going to happen instead is that people with PIP will have less money. People on PIP who used to have PIP will be poorer. It will not incentivize them to get jobs any further because they are genuinely disabled.
Genuinely disabled. Okay, so let's say, for example, the government said, people with one leg, we're going to take away your PIP and your leg's going to miraculously grow back. You and I can be flippant about this and tongue in cheek say this is what they're saying. We know that's literally not what they're saying because that would be ridiculous. But exactly the same kind of rhetoric or the same messaging is absolutely being delivered about people with invisible disabilities, people who don't necessarily fall into immediate, visible, genuine need, that removing PIP or taking away this social safety net will actually influence people's behaviours. Now, that again conflates disability with behaviours. These aren't behaviours that people are exhibiting. These are disabilities that people have. that must be insulting, limitlessly insulting to a disabled person.
Well, it is. And also, if we're looking at what they're actually doing with PIP, they're taking PIP away from people who don't get a 4 in at least one category.
Yeah.
And the things that people get 2s and 3s for on their PIP, this is like inability to wash on their own. So these are not small things. So these are things that affect people with visible and invisible
Yeah,
disabilities alike.
absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and those are the invisible struggles that people don't see. But people are emboldened. They are using language that the government and has legitimised around genuine disability, and it's something that this is definitely not for disabled people to fight, I guess, but we
No.
do need to educate people around the language that they're using. And, you know, saying things like genuine need sounds supportive, sounds absolutely reasonable, sounds completely respectable, that we would support people in genuine need. Nobody can argue with that. And that's the point. We can't argue with terms like genuine need because it's wholesome. But
it's who gets to decide.
It's who gets to decide. And it suggests that there is an alternative. It suggests that there is another side to this coin, that there are people in non-genuine need who are receiving help. Now, the government needs
But here's the thing, Rachel. The DWP has already decided that we're genuinely disabled. By the very fact that we've gotten PIP, they have decided that we're genuinely disabled. So surely that should be the end of the matter.
It should, but now they're going to move the goalposts so that genuine disability is shifting, or they're hoping that it will shift. And I guess relying on the lack of public sympathy for invisible disabilities through the use of language like genuine need. You know, so we're relying necessarily on the public not being particularly sympathetic to those who are losing out because they are badged as non-genuine need.
Yes.
So this is what we're relying on. So there isn't going to be a national outcry on the scale at which, you know, may well shift political decision making, unless we create enough of a fuss. I mean, you know, and we are hoping to, but you know, the public opinion is clouded or coloured by words like this, like genuine disability, like taxpayers' money, like working people, like economic inactivity. It all subtly but consistently nudges our views in a very particular direction. And that direction is a lack of sympathy for people with disabilities who are about to have the welfare state rug pulled out from under them. So, Sam, any sort of last words around not better phrases? We don't want you to educate people. That is not your role. But, you know, for people who are on the receiving end of challenge like you are, what can they do?
Well, they can tell their stories. I think what we're seeing here is a real failure of listening on the part of non-disabled people. I think there are ways for them to respectfully ask to hear our stories, as long as we know that they're listening.
Yeah.
And non-disabled people also need to be aware of the fact that it could be them.
Yeah.
You know, I was very fit and active before I got long COVID. I didn't sign up to be disabled. It was just something that happened, and disability is something that could happen to you any day. And on that day, people like me will be there to listen to you because we've been there first. Irrespective of whether you've called me a useless eater or not in the past.
Yeah. Thank you, Sam. You're absolutely right. We do need to listen, and it could happen to anybody. You know, accidents happen, disabilities happen, illnesses happen, life-changing things happen every day, and it absolutely, you know, nobody is immune from these things. So Sam, thank you very much. So we're going to be recording these videos and talking about the language of disability. We're going to be talking about the struggles that disabled people have, and we're going to be talking about the changes to the welfare system and how we can claim some of the unclaimed benefits that we know are in the system, but also how we can support people to feel dignified and to shed some of the stigma that prevents them from applying. So thank you, Sam, genuinely, and join us and follow us along for more.